I used to think betrayal only came from strangers. Now I know it can come from the very people you die for. When my father died, my mother shattered like glass. She cried for months, prayed every night, and clung to memories like someone drowning. But grief is a strange thing. It can turn a heart desperate, hungry, reckless. She tried dating again. 3 men in 2 years. Each one left her. Men don't like widows, she would whisper. They think we are broken goods. I pitied her. I held her when she cried. I encouraged her to heal, to find peace, to love again. I just never imagined she would choose my man. The love that raised me. Before heartbreak and betrayal, there was a love so warm it could light a room with just a smile. That was my mother and father. Their love wasn't loud or flashy. It was steady, full of small gestures that, at the time, I took for granted but now remember with bittersweet longing. The way they looked at each other. They didn't just see each other, they noticed each other. My father would glance at my mother across the room, and his eyes would linger longer than polite, like he was memorizing her. And my mother, she would tilt her head slightly, a subtle smile on her lips, and the corners of her eyes would crinkle. That tiny smile said, I know you. I trust you. I love you. Even when they argued, which was rare, there was a tenderness that lingered. A hand on a shoulder, a brush of fingers, a soft, I didn't mean that. Their arguments ended in laughter more often than not. Vacations together. Every year, they found a way to steal away from the chaos of life. Once, they drove to Obudu Cattle Ranch, winding roads, mist hanging low, the smell of wet earth filling the air. My father insisted on driving slowly, pointing out every waterfall, every tree, even stopping mid-road so my mother could take pictures of a bird he claimed was rare. They would laugh over coffee in tiny cafes, feed each other snacks, and argue playfully over directions. My mother loved buying souvenirs, carved wooden figurines, bright bead necklaces, colorful fabrics, and my father always pretended he didn't notice how much she spent, only to sneak the gifts into his suitcase when she wasn't looking. On one trip to Lagos Island, they discovered a tiny jewelry shop tucked away between markets. My father bought a silver bracelet for my mother, simple but elegant. She cried softly when he gave it to her, and he just smiled, pretending to adjust his tie like a man who had no idea how to handle emotions, but I knew he did. Gifts for each other. They loved giving gifts, not as grand gestures, but as little reminders that they thought of each other even in ordinary moments. My father would leave little notes in her purse. Remember to smile today. My mother would bake his favorite cake on Tuesdays, just because she knew he had a tough day. Birthdays were never about extravagance. They were about thoughtfulness. One year, my father gave my mother a music box with a tiny dancer inside. She laughed and clutched it like it was the most precious thing in the world. Christmas meant homemade presents, careful wrapping, secret notes tucked inside. Sometimes for family, sometimes just for each other. Even when buying gifts for others, they did it together, choosing carefully for siblings, friends, and neighbors. Their joy wasn't in the gift itself, but in imagining the happiness it would bring to someone else. I remember them arguing softly over which scarf would best suit my aunt, laughing at each other's ridiculous ideas, and then secretly buying both to avoid admitting they were wrong. Everyday moments of love. It wasn't just vacations and gifts. Love lived in small, quiet routines. My father would brew her tea in the morning, just the way she liked it, a touch of sugar, a squeeze of lemon. My mother would comb his hair gently while he watched TV, humming softly to herself. On Sundays, they would walk hand in hand to the market, chatting and laughing, stopping to greet neighbors and friends, always leaving a trail of warmth wherever they went. Even in silence, there was comfort. They could sit in the same room, reading newspapers or watching TV, fingers intertwined, and it felt like the most complete peace in the world. The legacy of their love. I grew up in that love. It shaped me, protected me, taught me that love isn't just grand declarations. It's attention, care, patience, and small acts of devotion repeated over a lifetime. I remember lying in bed as a child, hearing their laughter in the living room late at night, seeing the glow on their faces, feeling safe in the rhythm of their devotion. That love was constant. It was warm. It was unshakable. And it makes the betrayal I later witnessed sting even more, because I knew the heights love could reach and the depth of trust it demanded. When my father died, I was 15. Grief came into our home quietly first, like a shadow standing in a doorway, watching us. Then one day it moved in completely. I was 15 when my father died. He wasn't just my dad, he was our home. The foundation, the roof, the walls. The one who laughed the loudest and prayed the hardest. The man who would drive through Lagos traffic just to bring me meat pie because I said I was craving it. That morning, I remember waking up to the smell of pap boiling, the radio playing gospel, and my mother humming to herself. It felt like any ordinary Saturday, the kind that starts with hope. Then the phone rang, a single sound that changed everything. My mother picked it. Her face shifted, from confusion to fear to something I still cannot describe without crying. She whispered his name. She dropped the phone. Then she screamed. I have never heard a sound like that again in my life. It was not human. It was the sound of a heart breaking open. They told us it was a heart attack.
Just like that.
No warning.
No would-be.
One moment he was our world, and the next he was gone. The funeral. People filled our house. Sympathy wrapped in loud voices and shallow prayers. But I remember only 3 things. My mother sitting on the floor, rocking like her soul was leaving her body. The pastor saying, God gives and God takes. And my father, silent, still, cold. I touched his hand. It felt like ice. That's when I realized death is real. Not poetic. Not distant. Cold. Final. Ruthless. And for the first time in my life, I saw my mother as human. Not just mummy. A woman. A woman who lost the love of her life. A woman suddenly forced to stand alone in a world that never shows softness to widows. Life after him. Our house changed. Laughter didn't live there anymore. Food didn't taste the same. We spoke, but our voices always sounded like whispers in an empty church. My mother tried. Lord knows she tried. She woke up early. She prayed harder. She smiled when visitors came so they wouldn't say she was falling apart. But I saw it, the quiet breaking. The nights she sat alone in the living room staring at nothing. The way she clung to my father's clothes like faith. The silence that sat beside her at meals like a ghost. I grew up that year, not because I wanted to, but because grief forced me to. And maybe that's why years later, when men walked away from her, when loneliness became her second skin, she started looking for warmth anywhere she could find it, even in places forbidden, even in my world, even in my future. Maybe losing him carved a hunger in her heart she didn't know how to fill. I don't excuse what she did. I will never excuse it. But sometimes I close my eyes and remember that 15-year-old girl, standing beside a coffin, holding her mother's shaking hand, and I think, maybe betrayal begins where grief never healed. When I turned 18, at 18, everyone expects you to be excited about life. Freedom, dreams, campus life loading, future wide open. But not me. At 18, I was tired. Not physically, but in the way people who grow up too quickly get tired. While my classmates talked about parties and boyfriends, I was worrying about bills, about keeping my mother alive emotionally, about pretending my heart wasn't still stuck at that funeral when I was 15. I became quiet. Too quiet. People thought I was calm. I wasn't. I was carrying grief like a backpack that never came off, smiling only so no one would ask me what was wrong. At night, I studied hard because I wanted a scholarship. I told myself if I left home, maybe the ache would loosen. But every morning, I woke up early to make breakfast, just so my mother wouldn't sit in the kitchen alone and remember him again. Sometimes she'd stare at the teacup like she was waiting for my father to walk in and say, "My wife, I'm home." But he never did. Sometimes she'd touch my face and whisper, "You look like him." And I'd have to pretend that didn't stab me right in the ribs. I wasn't just her daughter. I had become her company, her comfort, her emotional crutch, her reminder that life once had meaning. I loved her.
Deeply.
But love can feel heavy when someone else's survival depends on you. At 18, I wasn't dreaming of love. I was just trying not to drown. When my mother started dating again, it began one Sunday afternoon. A man came to the house with pastries and fake humility. He smiled too much, called my mother beautiful widow, and quoted scripture like romance was hiding inside the book of Psalms. I didn't like him. I didn't like the way he looked at her with pity disguised as admiration. I didn't like the way she blushed, like she was embarrassed to feel wanted but desperate not to lose the attention.
She wore lipstick that day.
I hadn't seen her do that since the burial. She laughed too loudly at his jokes. She tucked her hair behind her ear like a nervous schoolgirl. And I saw it clearly. Loneliness had become a hunger. After he left, she sat beside me and asked, "Did you like him?"
Elite.
"He seems nice." Because in her eyes I saw something fragile. Hope, trembling like a candle in wind. And how could I blow that out? But later that night, I cried quietly into my pillow. Not because she was moving on, but because she needed to. Because I realized that no matter how much I tried, I could never be enough to fill the space my father left. And that was the first time I felt it. The fear that one day, my mother would choose someone else over me. In her desperation not to be alone again. I just didn't know that fear would one day become reality. In the most painful way possible. Her first heartbreak after trying to love again. His name was Mr. Joseph. A widower too, or so he said. A God-fearing man who brought coconut bread on Sundays. And called my mother precious like the word could heal bones. For weeks, I watched her glow again. She ironed her dresses. She hummed while cooking. She checked her phone like a teenager discovering love for the first time. I wanted to be happy for her. Part of me was. But another part, the scared part, kept whispering, "What if he leaves too?" One evening, she returned home later than usual. I was in the sitting room, pretending to read, but really waiting for the sound of the gate. When she walked in, I knew before she spoke. Her smile was missing. Her eyes were swollen. Her shoulders drooped like someone carrying invisible stones. She tried to walk past me. "Mummy." My voice was small, afraid of what I already knew. She stopped. Her lip trembled once, then again. And then she broke. Not loudly.
No screaming this time.
Just quiet shaking, the kind that hurts more than wailing. I held her, and through cracked breaths she whispered. "He said he can't marry a widow with emotional baggage. He said I still love your father too much." I closed my eyes. There it was, the punishment for loving deeply. For mourning honestly. She clung to me like I was a life raft and she was drowning again. Then she said something that carved itself into my bones forever. "Maybe there is no space left for me to be loved again."
I didn't know what to say.
How do you fix a wound you didn't cause? So I just held her tighter. I whispered lies because they felt like mercy. Someone will stay. You're not broken. You still deserve happiness. But that night, when she finally fell asleep, I sat awake in the dark and realized something terrifying. Her light had flickered, and loneliness had teeth. If grief broke her, heartbreak sharpened the pieces. From that day on, she wasn't looking just for company anymore. She was searching for replacement for emptiness. And emptiness is dangerous. It can turn even the gentlest heart desperate. It can blur lines. It can lead people toward the wrong arms, the wrong comfort, the wrong choices. I just didn't know then that the wrong choice would one day be my life, my future, my love. Her second heartbreak. Grief didn't kill my mother. Hope did. Hope that maybe this time would be different. Hope that she wouldn't have to go to bed scared of silence again. Hope that God had finally remembered her. His name was Mr. Ade, a charming divorcee. Soft voice, intelligent eyes, a man who spoke gently and listened deeply. The type whose presence made the room feel safe. He didn't just enter our house. He entered our routine. He called every morning. "Have you eaten?" He texted her during the day. You cross my mind. He dropped by in the evenings sometimes, bringing groceries like love could be measured in tomatoes and spices. And my mother. She started smiling again. Not the forced, polite one.
No.
The real one. The one I hadn't seen since my father. She cooked more. She wore perfume even when she stayed indoors. She laughed with her whole shoulders. I dared to believe again, too, that she might finally be free of that crushing loneliness. Then it happened. One Saturday evening, he told her the truth. His ex-wife wanted to come back. He still loved her. He wished my mother well, and thanked her for being a light during a dark time. He left,
Just like that.
taking her hope with him. The breaking. She didn't cry immediately. She sat on the couch, hands folded in her lap. Not blinking. Not breathing loud. Just gone.
He sat beside her. Silent.
Afraid to touch her. Afraid she would crumble like paper in my hands. After a long while, she whispered, I was a placeholder again. Her voice didn't shake. That made it worse. Pain without sound is the deepest kind. Then her eyes filled and spilled like water finally boiling over. Maybe widows are just bridges for men to cross back to their real life. She buried her face in her palms and trembled like someone choosing between fighting and giving up. I held her, but I could feel it. Something inside her shifting, twisting, hardening. Not bitterness. Not yet. Just fear. Fear that she would grow old untouched, unchosen, unseen. Fear that she would fade into the stillness she woke up with every morning. She held onto my arm like a child and whispered, I don't want to die alone. And in that moment I understood. It wasn't love she was chasing anymore. It was the terror of emptiness.
That day, something in her changed.
A small crack widened. A softness turned desperate. And a dangerous truth began to form inside her. Someone else's arms are better than none at all. I didn't know then that one day she would choose the wrong arms.
Meaning.
Her third heartbreak, Mr. Emmanuel. By the time Mr. Emmanuel appeared, my mother had learned how to smile without showing hope. The world had already failed her twice. But she still tried, not because she believed in love anymore, but because loneliness is louder in a quiet house. He was different. Or, at least he played it well. Older.
Calm.
A man with salt and pepper hair who spoke slowly, like life obeyed his pace. He brought books instead of flowers, wisdom instead of flattery. When he said, Your pain does not make you less of a woman, my mother's eyes softened in a way I hadn't seen in years. He praised her strength. He prayed with her. He insisted the world was cruel to widows, and he respected her survival. I liked him. God help me, I did. He made her laugh quietly, not desperately. He made her speak gently to herself again. For a moment, our house exhaled. The promise. One evening, I came home and found him helping her plant flowers in the backyard. He wore gloves, she had sand on her cheek, and they looked peaceful. He told her, I am ready. I want someone to build the rest of life with. I saw her blink fast, that blink people do when they're surprised they still have tears left. She whispered, Are you sure? He nodded like a man who meant it. And that tiny seed she buried after heartbreak number 2, that seed of hope, sprouted again, fragile but alive. For weeks, she hummed, she cooked, she prayed with gratitude. She glowed like dawn after too many nights. I let myself breathe. I thought maybe God was finally tired of testing her. The fall. Then one Saturday morning he came to the house. Not with flowers, not with bread, but with a trembling voice and pity in his eyes. He sat.
She poured tea.
He didn't touch it. I already knew. Pain recognizes pain before words arrive. He started softly. My children don't approve. She froze. He continued, They say you will never truly love me, that your heart still belongs to your late husband. She swallowed hard. I can love again, she whispered. I can try. He shook his head. They think you are too emotionally heavy. Even the clock paused. Emotionally heavy. like grief was a stain, like mourning was weakness, like loving a man deeply made her unfit to be loved again. She didn't cry this time. She just stared at him. A long, tired stare of a woman who has buried a husband and buried hope twice, and is now being asked to bury the idea of meaning itself. He tried to touch her hand. She pulled back.
Please leave, she said. No anger.
Just exhaustion. The exhaustion of someone who has fought life too long without armor. He left quietly. The door clicked, and that tiny sprout of hope inside her withered instantly. She stood still for a long minute. Then she whispered to the empty air. Even love fears a grieving woman. The breaking point. That night she didn't pray.
She didn't eat.
She just sat by the window, hands folded, eyes blank. I stood behind her, helpless. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. I am too much to love, and not enough to keep. It wasn't a cry. It wasn't despair. It was acceptance. And acceptance is the most dangerous form of sadness,
because it no longer fights.
That heartbreak didn't just wound her. It changed her. It taught her something twisted. Better to be wanted wrongly than to be abandoned righteously. That day, she stopped seeking love. She started seeking refuge from being alone. And from there, her path would lead to the darkest mistake she ever made.
The one that shattered me.
The one that burned our home from the inside. My mother's vow. After Mr. Emmanuel left, something inside my mother didn't just crack. It sealed shut. She didn't cry that night. She didn't pace. She didn't whisper prayers or ask God why life hated widows. She just sat still. Her silence felt louder than thunder. I watched from my room doorway, scared. Not because she looked broken, but because she looked like someone who had finally accepted the darkness instead of fighting it. She stared into empty space and murmured bitterly, "No more." Her voice sounded like a door closing. No more men feeding on my wounds and leaving me to bleed. No more begging to be chosen. No more living like I am a burden someone must tolerate. She stood up, slow, controlled, dangerous in her calm, walked to the mirror, touched her face gently, as if examining a stranger. Then she whispered to her reflection, "From now on, anyone who wants me will prove it. I will not be the desperate one again." Her eyes hardened, cold like metal forged in fire. I am done being deceived. It wasn't a promise to heal. It wasn't a vow to love herself. It was a vow to protect herself at any cost, even if she had to become the villain in someone else's story. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She was tired. Tired of being pitted. Tired of being fragile. Tired of waiting for someone to save her from her loneliness. That was the night my mother stopped hoping for love and started hunting for control. From then on, she looked at life with suspicion, at men with calculation, at me with quiet envy. We didn't know it yet, but the woman who raised me died with my father. And the woman who emerged afterward? She wasn't soft. She wasn't trusting. She wasn't patient. She was a survivor. And survivors don't care who drowns, as long as they don't drown again. That vow, that silent shift, it was the seed of the betrayal that would one day destroy us both. The first spark, my boyfriend. I was 19 when I met Daniel. He wasn't lightning and fireworks. He was warmth, steady, gentle, the kind of presence that felt like sunrise after too many cold mornings. We met in a crowded student library. He asked for a pen. I offered him one. He returned it with a shy thank you and a smile that held sincerity, not games. For the first time in years, my heart opened a little. I told him about my dad. He listened like grief was a language he respected. He walked me home sometimes, stopping at suya stands and laughing at my bad jokes. Slowly, quietly, he became the soft place my heart could rest. When he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes with a kind of trembling joy. The joy of someone who didn't think life had space for happiness anymore. Love felt like breathing again. I wanted to show my mother the good thing I had found. I wanted to prove that love could still exist in our world. I didn't know that by inviting him into our home, I was opening a door to our undoing. The first introduction. The day I brought Daniel home. My mother wore a plain gown and a tired face. I expected polite curiosity. Instead, she stared at him like she recognized a story she once belonged to. He greeted her with respect, bent slightly, voice soft. "Good afternoon, Ma." She didn't smile immediately. She studied him, his gentle eyes, his posture, the way he held my hand protectively. And then a flicker, a flash of something sharp and painful in her eyes. Recognition, nostalgia, hunger. It lasted barely a second, but I saw it. She asked questions in a calm voice. "Your parents? Your goals? Do you love her?" He answered sincerely. I waited for her approval. Finally, she said quietly, "Love her well. Men like you are rare." He smiled. She did not smile back, but her gaze lingered on him a moment too long, like something inside her had awakened. The first crack of jealousy. At first it was subtle, a shade in her voice, a tightening around her eyes. When I laughed loudly with him, she watched with a softness mixed with something wounded. When he hugged me goodbye, she looked away too quickly. One evening, I caught her staring at us through the kitchen doorway, her fingers gripping a cup too tight. Her face wasn't angry. It was grieving, not for a husband, but for the version of herself who once had what I now held.
I didn't understand then.
I only felt a chill, like love had walked in the door, and memory refused to let it stay. The competition she didn't admit. It began quietly. She started dressing up again, makeup to lift her mood, perfume just to feel fresh. She styled her hair more often, cooked elaborate meals on days he visited. She complimented him often. "You're well-mannered. Not many young men are like you." At first, I thought she was happy for me, but then she began correcting my posture, criticizing my outfits, telling me not to laugh too loudly, not to cling to him in front of guests, not to depend too much on a man. Almost like she was sculpting me into who she used to be, or trying to prove she could still be me. One afternoon, she walked past us and gently touched his shoulder when greeting him. Just a touch. But his head lifted, surprised, and mine lowered, uneasy. A tension entered our home. Soft at first, like a note slightly off-key. The air shifted. Walls remembered pain. And a mother who had vowed never to be vulnerable again began quietly, dangerously, wanting what she once had, and what I now owned. I started noticing strange behavior. At first it was dust, small, harmless, nothing serious. Or, at least, that's what I told myself. Suspicion never arrives loudly. It tiptoes in like a shadow behind sunlight. It began with little shifts, the kind that don't make sense until they pile up and start forming a story of their own. Daniel, my Daniel, once treated my mother with the distant respect every Nigerian boyfriend knows is required. Polite greetings, quick conversations, nothing too warm, nothing too familiar. But then familiarity began to creep in like smoke through a tiny crack. He started greeting her with warmth in his voice, deeper than usual. "Good afternoon, Mummy. You're looking fresh today." A harmless compliment, right? Except Daniel never noticed when I changed hairstyles, let alone whether someone else's skin was fresh. Then it became routine. He offered to help her carry things. He would stay in the kitchen longer than necessary to assist her with dishes. If she coughed, he was suddenly a doctor. I told myself he was just trying to impress my family, but a small part of me felt something shift, and once that feeling entered, it refused to leave. Then Mama changed too. The same woman who used to wear faded wrappers and tie scarf anyhow began using scented lotions. She started tying her gelly in the evening, when we weren't going anywhere. She polished her nails lightly, nude colors, subtle yet intentional. She started glowing. Not because life got better, but because someone was suddenly watering her wilted confidence. I should have been happy for her. I tried. God knows I tried. But some happiness spoils the air in the room. This one did. There were looks between them. Not long looks, that would have been easy to catch. These were fast, guilty glances, like two souls sharing a secret they couldn't say aloud. Sometimes I walked into the living room and found them sitting a bit too close. They always shifted quickly, too quickly. Mama would suddenly adjust her wrapper, fake cough, and ask me random questions like, "Ada, have you eaten?" Even when I was holding a plate of rice in my hand. Sometimes I'd come out of my room quietly and hear low murmurs, followed by silence, when my footsteps approached. 4 smiles. Empty eyes. Daniel stopped holding me around my waist in the house. He stopped kissing my forehead when he thought no one was watching. Instead, he became stiff around me, like being tender to me in front of her was some betrayal. One Sunday afternoon, I came home earlier than expected. I opened the door quietly and found Daniel laughing hard with Mama in the living room. Not friendly laughter, intimate laughter, stomach-deep laughter, like they were sharing memories I didn't belong to. When they saw me, the laughter died immediately. Silence. A loud, uncomfortable silence. "What are you watching?" I asked. They looked at each other first, then at me. Just news," Daniel stuttered. "News?" They were laughing like 2 teenagers. My mother's eyes refused to meet mine. Daniel suddenly remembered he needed to check something on his phone. My heart didn't break. It trembled. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, my chest tight, brain heavy. I kept replaying every small moment I had ignored, every strange tension, every stolen glance. Was grief making my mother crave affection so desperately that boundaries blurred? Was loneliness strong enough to make a mother forget the child she once held in her arms? Or was Daniel so fragile, so easily swayed, that my mother's pain became more alluring than my love? The doubt hurt. The confusion hurt more. And the worst pain was not knowing whether my instincts were right, or if trauma from watching my mother's heartbreaks had poisoned my ability to trust love. I told myself I was imagining things. But life has a way of whispering the truth before it slaps you with it. And every whisper around me said one thing. Something is happening here. Something I wasn't ready to face. Something I didn't want to believe. Something that would soon tear my world wide open. The gifts that told the truth before their mouths did. Love has many languages. Attention.
Time.
Sacrifice. And sometimes gifts. Daniel used to bring me little things, snacks, perfume, a book he thought I'd like, sometimes even jollof rice from that place I loved. It was never about the price. It was the thought, the effort. But then the balance shifted. One Saturday afternoon, he came over smiling like Santa Claus. "Babe, I got you something." He handed me a cute bracelet. Simple silver chain, small heart pendant. I smiled. It was sweet. I hugged him. I meant it. Even small love, when sincere, is precious. Then he turned to my mother. "And Ma, I got you something too." He brought out a luxurious silk scarf, gold-trimmed, smelling faintly of imported lavender. I blinked. My mother's eyes widened. Not with surprise, but with a softness I hadn't seen in years. She touched it delicately, like it was fragile gold. Daniel, this is too much." But her smile didn't reject it. Her fingers didn't return it. Her eyes held gratitude tinged with something else. I looked at my little bracelet again. I told myself, it's just a coincidence. Maybe he thought she needed cheering up. But coincidences don't repeat themselves so neatly. Another day, he brought me cupcakes, 2 packs. He brought Mama a new blender, the expensive kind she always admired in supermarket aisles but could never justify buying. He told me mine was a sweet surprise. He told her, "You deserve comfort, Ma." Comfort. Such a tender word when spoken to the wrong person by the wrong lips. One evening, I came home and met him handing her a fragrant body lotion set, international brand, premium line. He gave me a kiss on the forehead and handed me a movie ticket so we could go watch something sometime. Just 1 ticket, not 2. As if I would go alone. Mama giggled softly while opening her gift, and I stood there clutching mine, feeling like a child who just got crayons while another kid walked away with gold jewelry. There was a day he gifted me a pair of earrings, cute plastic ones. 5 minutes later, he brought out a gold-plated necklace for her. And I remember thinking, is he trying to impress my mother or marry her? Little by little, my excitement for his visits faded. Instead, my stomach tightened every time I heard his voice at the gate. I began to observe the way she thanked him, shy, soft, grateful in a way she never was with me. The way his eyes lit up when she smiled. The way their compliments to each other sounded richer, warmer than ours. I caught myself comparing. Why was my gift always smaller? Why did hers always look like effort, while mine looked like duty? Why did it feel like I was watching love slowly redirect itself right in front of me? I confronted him once, gently. Daniel, you spoil my mum more than me, oh. He laughed lightly. Don't be jealous. She's like my mother too now. Like his mother. Yet his voice held a tenderness that sons do not use. Mama joined in. A woman of my age deserves small pampering, a beg. I laughed too, because tears would have been disrespectful. But that night, I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling again. A familiar ache sat in my chest, heavy, suspicious, scared. Because suddenly I knew, gifts are never just objects. They are intent expressed in physical form. Affection dressed as kindness. A secret delivered in pretty wrapping. And every gift he gave her said it louder than any words ever could. You matter more. Something deeper than me was growing between them. And every ribbon, every perfume, every expensive gesture was evidence. Not proof yet, but evidence. And the little bracelet on my wrist suddenly felt like pity. The phone calls at midnight. It started slowly, like footsteps in the dark that you try to pretend you don't hear. Mama, the same woman who once swore in my presence that love was a battlefield she had retired from, that no man would ever lure her heart into foolishness again, suddenly began smiling at her phone. At first, it looked innocent. A soft chuckle here. A shy hello there. A secretive I'll call you back later when I entered the room. She started wearing perfume at night. Perfume inside the house. For who? Sometimes she sat on the veranda, phone pressed to her ear, feet gently swinging like a young girl who just discovered butterflies in her stomach again. She didn't even realize she hummed, that soft humming she only used to do when Daddy was alive. It felt like hope returning to her life, and I was happy.
Truly I was.
For years, I watched her crumble after heartbreaks. For years, she moved like a woman who forgot what it meant to be desired. To see her smiling again? It warmed me, even if a small part of me worried she might fall into pain again. I sat with her one evening, teasing. Mummy, this your new glow-no-be hero? Who is this man? So, you finally decided to give love a chance again? She faked annoyance, waving her hand like my words were flies. Leave me, Jer. I'm just talking to someone. Don't start asking questions. But I saw it, that shy smile creeping up her face, the one she tried to hide. It reminded me of the softness she had buried when heartbreak wore her out. I thought God finally sent her someone good, a man who would heal her scars, a man who would honor her pain and rebuild her heart carefully. I thought my mother was learning to breathe again. Sometimes I'd hear her whisper laughing in her room. Sometimes relaxing on the couch with eyes dreamy like a girl being serenaded over the phone. And I told myself,
she deserves this.
After everything she has survived, she deserves sweetness. How was I to know that the sweetness I celebrated was poison in disguise? The calls continued almost daily, sometimes late at night, sometimes early morning. She guarded her phone like a soldier protecting state secrets. Every notification, she rushed. Every ringtone, she excused herself. I assumed she was in love again. I assumed life was finally paying her back for suffering. But assumptions are dangerous. They build castles on sand, castles that storms destroy mercilessly. I didn't know that the voice making her giggle softly, the person giving her butterflies, the one she stayed awake whispering to until 2 a.m., was the very man who once held my hand and called me my future. The tragedy of life is that betrayal doesn't announce itself. It simply waits, quiet, patient, until the moment you believe you are safe. And I was happy for her. Blindly, beautifully happy for her. Not knowing the worst was not behind us, but ahead, waiting like a hungry wolf behind a closed door. Soon, the truth would crawl out from the shadows. And when it came, it would not just crack my world, it would reduce it to dust. The call I wasn't supposed to hear. It was an ordinary evening, the kind where the world feels quiet enough to trust, the kind where betrayal seems impossible. Mama was in her room, door almost closed, talking on the phone again. Her voice floated into the hallway, soft, honeyed, too warm to ignore. I was passing by when I heard it. "My sweet baby, you miss me, ABI?" I froze. Sweet baby? My hand tightened around the cup I was holding. For a moment, I thought I misheard. Maybe she was joking? Teasing one of her church friends? Talking to her sibling's child? I took one small step back toward her door. Her voice lowered, playful in a way I had never heard since before Daddy died. Stop it. You know I love hearing your voice. My darling, my heart stuttered. Darling? Who was she talking to? Curiosity turned to confusion. Confusion quietly touched fear. But then she said a name, so soft I almost doubted it. Daniel? Everything inside me paused. Daniel. My Daniel.
No.
No, it couldn't be him. I must have heard wrong. I had to have heard wrong. I swallowed hard, panic crawling up my spine, but my mind fought back instantly. Maybe it's another Daniel. There are millions of Daniels. It can't be your Daniel. You're overthinking. People talk to namesakes all the time. People say baby jokingly sometimes, right?
Right?
I forced myself to believe it, because the alternative was too horrifying to accept. My mother giggled softly, a girlish giggle I hadn't heard since I was a child watching her flirt with my father. You will come tomorrow, ABI? You know I can't wait. My breath caught in my throat. I stepped back quietly, heart pounding so loud I could hear it. The air around me suddenly felt too thick to breathe.
No.
Not my mother. Not Daniel. Not both of them. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself trauma was lying to me, whispering old fears into new moments. I told myself I trusted my boyfriend. I told myself my mother would never do that to me. I whispered under my breath, shaking. There are many Daniels. It's not him. It can't be. I repeated it again, and again, until the lie felt almost like comfort. But deep down, somewhere in a quiet, trembling corner of my heart, I knew the truth. I just wasn't ready to face it yet. Because sometimes the brain hears the truth, but the heart begs for one more day of ignorance. So I walked away pretending it was not my Daniel, pretending life was still safe, pretending I hadn't just heard the first crack in my entire world. I didn't confront her. I couldn't. I chose denial because the truth would ruin everything. And I wasn't ready to break. Not yet. When Daniel started acting different after that night, life continued, or rather, I pretended it did. But once suspicion enters your heart, even normal things start to look suspicious. I tried to brush it off. I tried to convince myself I heard another Daniel, another baby. I forced myself to laugh at my own paranoia. But then Daniel changed. Not all at once. Piece by subtle piece, like a string loosening quietly until everything falls apart. He stopped showing up the same way. Before, he would rush to see me when he missed me. He used to text like someone afraid to lose me. Where are you? Have you eaten? What time should I come? But suddenly visits became excuses. Work held me up. Traffic was mad. I'm tired. Maybe tomorrow. Meanwhile, Mama's perfume lingered sweetly in the living room on those same days. His eyes avoided mine. When he did come, he couldn't hold my gaze anymore. He would look at me, then look away sharply, like my eyes were dangerous. His smiles felt rehearsed. His laugh, too loud, too fake. I knew that laugh. It was the same laugh he had the first time he lied to me about talking to another woman years ago. Except this time, the woman lived in my house. He was nervous around me, but relaxed around her. One day he came over when Mama was cooking. When I hugged him, his body was stiff, uncomfortable. But when she walked into the room, His shoulders dropped. He exhaled. His eyes softened. And they didn't even talk. They just looked at each other. That one silent moment told me more than any confession ever could. I felt invisible, like I was the extra person in my own relationship. He started complimenting her in strange ways. A casual afternoon, we were watching TV, and Mama passed by, wearing a simple wrapper and loose blouse. Out of nowhere, Daniel said quietly, "Mummy, you always look elegant." Elegant?
Mama?
Wrapper and all? Since when did wrapper become elegance to him? I forced a smile, but inside, something screamed. His phone became a fortress. He used to drop his phone anywhere. Sometimes I'd even pick it up to check the time, and he never cared. Suddenly he started, turning it face down, jumping when it rang, keeping it in his pocket always, leaving the room to take calls, smiling quietly at messages he never explained. One day, I saw a contact saved as M. Consultant. I asked, "Who is that?" He swallowed. Someone helping me with a project."
Consultant.
That consultant had the same ringtone Mama used. My stomach twisted. But again, I lied to myself. Maybe it's nothing.
Don't overthink.
He stopped saying, "I love you" first. He waited for me to say it. And when I did, his "I love you too" came delayed. Like guilt had to push the words out of his throat. Love shouldn't sound like confession. The look. Then came the moment I could never forget. We were all in the living room, Mama, Daniel, and I. He asked for water. I stood up to get it. Before I turned completely, I saw it. A look. A long, quiet, forbidden look between them, like a secret passing silently. Mama looked away first. Then him. My heart cracked. Just a hairline fracture. But the kind that you feel in your bones. They didn't touch. They didn't speak. But attraction doesn't need contact. Betrayal doesn't need words. I walked to the kitchen holding my breath. The air felt heavy, like grief was already moving in. I told myself again.
No.
Don't think nonsense. She's your mother. He loves you. Don't do this to yourself. But denial is a weak bandage. And reality was already bleeding through. Because I knew, even before proof, before confrontation, before everything shattered, love doesn't hide like that unless it's hiding something dirty. And something dirty was growing between them. Something I was too scared to name.
Yet.
The day everything shifted. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind of lazy, warm Saturday where even the sun seemed tired. I was in the kitchen washing plates, humming to a song in my head. The fan in the living room clicked rhythmically, like it was keeping time with the heartbeat of the house. Mom was in her room, door slightly closed, and I could faintly hear her voice, soft, sweet, almost girlish. A voice I hadn't heard her use in years, not since my dad died. At first, I smiled. She deserves happiness, I told myself. Maybe she finally found love again. I turned off the tap when I heard her laugh, that shy, teenage-like giggle. A giggle she never gave me. A giggle she hadn't given any man since heartbreak after heartbreak. I leaned closer to the hallway, not intentionally spying, just listening. Then she said it. "My sweet baby, you always know how to make me blush." I froze. My hands, wet from the dishwater, suddenly felt cold. My heart kicked like it forgot how to beat properly. For a second, the world shrank to the size of that one sentence. I swallowed, confused. Sweet baby? So she's dating someone? Finally, I felt a small relief. Good for her, I thought, until she continued, whispering like she was trying to hide butterflies in her voice. "Daniel, stop, you'll make me fall madly again." Everything inside me turned to ice. The plate in my hand slipped and shattered in the sink. I stood there numb. Daniel? My Daniel? My boyfriend. The one she hugged so warmly, the one who always brought her sweeter gifts than mine? Suddenly, all the strange moments began flashing in my head like lightning. Their long hugs, the secret looks, their whispers when they thought I wasn't paying attention. Her new glowing skin, new hairstyles, painted nails, like she was trying to impress someone. Him showing up more often, but spending more time in the living room than with me. I wanted to breathe, but my lungs refused. Maybe there was another Daniel? Maybe I misheard? Maybe my brain was playing tricks on me? I told myself anything just to escape the truth that was swallowing me. I wiped my hands, walked quietly back to the kitchen. My heart was hammering so loudly, I thought she would hear it. I forced myself to keep moving, keep breathing, keep pretending. It can't be him. It can't be Daniel. My mother would never. But somewhere inside, the truth was already sitting, cold, dark, and waiting. And for the first time, I felt like a stranger in my own house, standing between the two people I trusted most, and realizing one of them might already be betraying me. Or worse, both of them. The day I caught them holding hands. It was just another evening. Or, at least, it was supposed to be. I had stepped out earlier to get groceries. Nothing serious. Just bread, eggs, noodles, life's ordinary things. I came back home humming, plastic bags cutting into my fingers, thinking about supper and Netflix. The front door wasn't locked. Strange. Mom always locked it, even if she was just in the living room. I pushed the door open slowly. Then I stopped breathing. There they were, Daniel and my mother, sitting on the sofa, not even flinching at the sound of the door. Their hands were locked together, fingers intertwined like lovers who promised the world to each other. My mother's had leaned softly towards him, her smile gentle, warm, glowing. The way a woman smiles when she feels safe in someone's arms. She was giggling like a girl, touching his hand with both of hers, their knees almost touching. And Daniel was looking at her with that same soft-eyed tenderness he used to look at me with. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I couldn't blink. I just froze, like my body had forgotten how to exist. It felt like someone emptied ice water straight into my veins. My heart didn't break cleanly. It shattered, jagged, loud, violent, inside my chest. Finally, the words burst out of me before tears could. What is going on here? My voice echoed through the living room like a gunshot. They jumped apart, a careless, guilty panic. Mom snatched her hand away like a child caught with stolen sweets. Daniel stood up too fast, knocking the remote to the floor. His voice caught in his throat. My mother was the first to speak. She forced a laugh, shaky, desperate, like a mask being pulled over a bleeding wound. Aha, calm down, dear. What's wrong with you? We were just talking. Just gisting. Her voice trembled. Her eyes didn't meet mine. Daniel nodded too quickly, swallowing hard. Yeah, babe, your mom she's just so wise. We were just talking.
Talking.
Talking? They looked like criminals holding confession papers behind their backs. I stared at both of them, chest rising fast, my vision blurring. I could feel heat burning behind my eyes, but I refused to cry in front of them. I dropped the grocery bag on the floor, eggs cracking, bread rolling out, but nobody moved. Mom added, voice painfully fake. Daniel is such a great person to be around. He's like a son. You're overreacting. Like a son. Then why was she holding his hand like a lover? Why was she touching him like he belonged to her? Silence thickened in the room. A silence so heavy it choked me. Daniel avoided my gaze completely. He kept rubbing his palms together, the same hands that were holding hers moments ago. His face was red, guilty, exposed. I could feel something inside me rupture. Slowly, my voice came out, shaky, raw, wounded. If he's such a son, why were you holding his hand like that? No one spoke. Not my mother. Not Daniel. Not anyone in that house of betrayal. They just stared. And I realized in that moment, the truth wasn't coming from their mouths. It was already written in their eyes. My mother's breath was shallow, her hands fidgeting. Daniel's lips trembled with a lie he couldn't shape into words. And me? I stood there, daughter, girlfriend, fool, watching everything I trusted collapse in front of me. In that moment, the house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a battlefield. And I was the only one wounded. I believed them, because who suspects their own mother? They didn't even let me sit down before the explanations started flying like nervous birds trapped in a room. Daniel reached for my hand, voice soft, shaky. Babe, please. You're misunderstanding everything. I would never disrespect you like that. Never. His eyes were wide, begging. The same eyes that once told me I was his whole world. He looked scared, not scared of losing me, but scared of getting caught. My mother quickly added, a little too eager. Your mind is just playing tricks on you. I know you've been stressed. You shouldn't jump to conclusions. Daniel is a good boy. A good boy. That phrase stung. She placed her hand on her chest dramatically, like she was the victim. You think I would go for someone your age? My daughter's boyfriend? God forbid. Never. Don't insult me like that. Insult her? That flipped my heart upside down. I swallowed, my anger tangled with confusion and guilt. Because as insane as it sounded, a part of me felt ashamed, like I was wrong for doubting my own mother. In my head, I kept repeating, she's my mother. She raised me. She wouldn't do this to me, right? Daniel gently squeezed my fingers and whispered, I love you. You're my woman. Your mom is just comforting to talk to. Nothing more. Comforting. Like a second home. Like a warm pillow. But his eyes flickered when he said it. I saw it, that tiny, guilty flicker. Still, I forced myself not to question it. Because who expects their mother to sleep with their boyfriend? Who imagines their mother competing with them for love? Who looks at the woman who held them as a baby and suspect she might steal the man meant for their future children? It felt sick to even think it. I didn't want to be that paranoid girlfriend. And certainly not a daughter accusing her own mother of something so disgusting. I broke down crying instead. Right there in the living room, I covered my face and sobbed, overwhelmed and desperate to believe I was just overthinking. Mom rushed to hug me, her perfume filling my nose, the same perfume Daniel once complimented. She rubbed my back gently. Show my child. Don't cry. Nobody is taking your man from you. You're imagining things. Daniel hugged me too, his hand rubbing my shoulder. The same shoulder my mother's hand was just rubbing minutes earlier. Two people, one on each side, pretending to comfort me while hiding the knife already buried in my back. And like a fool, a heartbroken, trusting fool, I clung to them both and whispered,
I'm sorry.
I love both of you. I didn't want to lose you. Daniel kissed my forehead. My mother wiped my tears. Two betrayers reassuring the person they were betraying. And I believed them. Because love makes you blind. And trust makes you stupid. I convinced myself everything was fine. I laughed it off later. I told friends, it was just a silly moment. But deep inside, a voice whispered quietly, something is wrong. Something is very wrong. I ignored it, and that ignorance would soon destroy me. After that day, distance and glow. Days passed, then weeks. And slowly, quietly, everything around me started changing, like watching sunlight fade into night without realizing when darkness began. At first, it was subtle. Daniel, the man who once called me every morning, texting me sweet little messages like, "Good morning, sunshine, and have you eaten?" suddenly became busy. Too busy to call. Too tired to text. Too distant to notice when my voice cracked or my eyes swelled from crying in the bathroom. His replies became shorter.
Cool.
Busy RN. Talk later. Later stopped coming. He stopped visiting often. And when he did, it felt like he came for the house, not for me. Like he came to breathe the same air as my mother. Meanwhile, my mother bloomed. While Daniel faded from me, my mother glowed. Her skin, radiant. Her laughter, loud and frequent. The kind I hadn't heard since before my father died. Her step, light, like she was floating. She started dressing up, doing her makeup even when she wasn't going anywhere. New dresses. New hair. Soft lipstick that matched her suddenly rosy cheeks. She hummed around the house. She danced while cooking. She sang songs from her youth like a woman in love for the first time. But the thing that stabbed me the most? Her phone never left her hand. She'd smile at it.
Giggle.
blush like a teenage girl chatting with a secret crush. Sometimes she hid the screen when I walked in. And every time Daniel canceled on me, or sounded cold, my mother's mood went up, not down. Her happiness grew as my relationship died. It didn't make sense at first. I told myself, maybe she's healing. Maybe she finally found someone new. She deserves love after all she's been through. I wanted to be happy for her. I truly did. But something in my chest felt tight.
Wrong.
Suffocating. Like I was losing both of them at once. The disconnect. Daniel stopped checking on me emotionally. I'd tell him, I miss you. He'd say, we'll talk later. I'd say, are you okay? Did I do something? He'd respond, just give me space. Yet my mother, started glowing like she'd just discovered paradise. One night, I stood in the hallway watching her twirl in front of the mirror in a silk robe, blushing at a message. And I realized, love gives glow. But betrayal gives the same glow too. At first, I felt like a ghost watching my own life slip away from me. The house that once held comfort now held secrets. Whispers. Smiles behind my back. 2 phones lighting up at the same exact time. The universe wasn't whispering to me anymore. It was screaming. And I still didn't want to believe it. Because believing it meant accepting that the 2 people I loved most in this world were falling in love with each other right in front of me. And I was standing there, invisible, forgotten, replaced. Weeks passed, and we became strangers. Weeks slid past like sand through open fingers. And slowly, I watched my relationship fade. Not with a fight, not with bitterness, but with silence. With avoidance. With distance so cold it froze me from the inside out. Daniel and I, we no longer laughed like before. No midnight calls. No silly voice notes. No, I miss you. No baby, come outside, I'm here. The warmth disappeared, replaced by empty air. Whenever I tried to fix things, I held on to hope like it was the last rope keeping me alive. Daniel, let's see tomorrow. Let's go get ice cream like we used to. Come over. I miss you. His answers were always the same. Not today. Something came up. Another time. Busy.
Busy.
That word became the wall between us. Every excuse cut deeper than the last. Because I knew, if someone wants to see you, they make time. They don't schedule you like an appointment they're trying to avoid. Some days, I would stare at my phone, waiting for a message that never came. Wondering what I did wrong. Asking myself why my love suddenly wasn't enough. I'd lie in my room at night gripping my pillow, whispering to myself, we used to be happy. What happened? What changed? But deep down, I already knew what changed. Or rather, who. Because each time Daniel pushed me away, my mother glowed more. When he ignored my calls, her phone lit up with notifications. When I felt neglected, she felt adored. Sometimes late at night, I heard her laughing softly in her room. Giggles. A woman in love. A woman being wooed. I should have connected the dots. But I was trying so hard to keep my heart from collapsing that I blinded myself. I kept hoping, maybe he's just stressed. Maybe he needs space. Maybe this is temporary. I convinced myself that love like ours didn't just evaporate, even though every sign said otherwise. But the universe has a cruel way of exposing truth. And soon, the illusion I was clinging to would shatter in a way that left scars I would never forget. The day was coming, the day everything would explode. And I could feel it approaching like a storm brewing in the distance, heavy and dark and ready to break everything in its path. The day everything broke. That day is burned into my memory like fire on skin. I wasn't supposed to be home until 7 p.m. My classes were meant to run late, a normal day, an ordinary day. Then the lecturer canceled last minute. Just like that, I had time. Free time I didn't ask for. Time that turned into pain. On the way home, I even picked up Sia, thinking maybe Daniel would come over. Maybe we could talk, maybe things could feel normal again. I opened the gate quietly, humming to myself. The house was quiet, too quiet.
No TV. No footsteps.
Just a strange stillness. I pushed the door open and stepped in. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then I heard it. Soft at first, then unmistakable. Breathing. Heavy. Rhythmic. Then a loud moan. My heart stopped. Another sound. And another. My blood froze. It was coming from my mother's room. My mother. And a man. I stood there confused, heart pounding, fingers shaking, mind screaming. I whispered to myself,
No. No.
"No, it can't be." I walked slowly to her door, legs weak, like the ground beneath me didn't want to hold me anymore. I pushed the door just enough to see. And the world ended. There they were. Daniel and my mother. Together. I didn't see bodies, I didn't need to. Their faces, their closeness, the intimacy, her head thrown back, his voice whispering to her. It was enough to break my soul. I felt the suya fall from my hand. The nylon hit the floor with a soft thud. But in my chest, everything crashed like thunder. All the excuses. All the lies. The hand-holding. The glow. The distance. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't stress or overthinking. It was betrayal.
Real. Raw.
Unforgivable. Before I even realized, tears flooded my face. I didn't even cry loudly. I just stood there shaking, heart splitting open quietly, painfully, completely. I managed to whisper, voice broken, barely a sound. "Daniel?" He froze. She froze. They turned like ghosts caught in daylight. His eyes widened, panic, guilt, fear. My mother's face drained of color. She covered herself, stuttering. "Wait, listen, it's not." "Not what?" "Not betrayal? Not wickedness? Not the deepest wound a mother could give her child?" Daniel tried to speak. I didn't hear a word. My ears rang. My body felt numb. My spirit felt like someone tore it apart. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just stood there, breath gone, heart silent. In that moment, I didn't lose a boyfriend. I didn't just lose a mother. I lost my home, my trust, my innocence, my faith in love, and the last bit of who I was. Because betrayal from strangers hurts. But betrayal from blood? That kills something inside you forever. Daniel tries to beg. My mother tries to justify. Daniel scrambled to pull on his clothes, shaking like someone caught stealing life itself. "Babe, wait, please, it's not what you think. Not what I think." I saw them. I heard them. My whole world collapsed right in front of me. My mother wrapped herself in a wrapper, breathing hard, her voice trembling. "Listen, calm down, just calm down first." Calm down? My vision blurred from crying. I couldn't even feel my legs under me anymore. Daniel crawled toward me like a coward. "I swear I didn't mean to hurt you. It just happened. Your mom, she was lonely, we were talking and—" I cut him sharply, voice shaking with rage and heartbreak. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. It felt like drowning in betrayal and humiliation. Daniel whispered, "Please don't go like this." My voice cracked, barely audible. "Don't follow me." I walked out.
Slow.
Shaking. Empty inside. And when I stepped outside the door, I broke. My back hit the wall, and I slid down to the floor, gasping, crying into my palms like a child who just discovered monsters are real, and they lived inside her own home. My chest hurt so badly I held it with both hands. I begged for air. I begged for strength. But all I felt was pain. Not heartbreak. Heartbreak is too mild. This felt like soul break. The sound that came out of me wasn't crying anymore. It was grief. Deep, raw, primal grief. I lost a boyfriend. I lost a mother. I lost the home I believed in. And in that moment, I realized, you don't truly know people until they choose themselves over you. And they chose. Not me. I couldn't stand the sight of my mother and my boyfriend. The walls, the couch, the smell of the house, everything reminded me of betrayal. So I packed a few clothes, my laptop, and my shattered pride, and I left. I moved in with a friend because going back home felt like drowning in shame and anger. Daniel and my mother kept calling and texting, begging, apologizing, explaining, but I didn't have the strength to open a single message. I didn't deserve that pain, and they didn't deserve my forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Days turned into weeks. Silence became my shield. I blocked them everywhere and focused on breathing again, living again. Then one afternoon, my younger cousin called. Her voice was shaky, her words heavy. "Come home. Your mom is in the hospital. She lost the baby." My heart stopped.
Baby?
What baby? It felt like the room tilted. My knees gave out, and I sat on the edge of the bed, trembling. My mother was pregnant, with my boyfriend's child. And now she had lost it. I didn't know what hurt more, that she betrayed me, or that even after everything, a part of me still cared.